Across the country, a wave of uncertainty is rolling in, casting a gloomy pall over cities and small towns. The atmosphere is tense. People rush through the rain, their faces marked by anxiety, while the looming outlines of federal buildings stand as silent reminders of the seriousness of the situation. Suddenly, tens of thousands of Americans find themselves out of work. Unemployment lines grow longer by the day, filled with people from every background, young and old, experienced and new, each searching for hope and a path forward. Inside, the mood is heavy as job seekers pore over listings and fill out forms, unsure of what tomorrow will bring. The federal government, once a beacon of job security, is now a source of worry for its own employees. Workers who once felt shielded by their positions now exit their offices with anxious expressions, wondering if they'll be next to receive a layoff notice. In a sweeping move to downsize, up to 40,000 federal jobs have been slashed. Desks are abandoned, personal items are packed away, and the once busy corridors now echo with the footsteps of those who remain. The loss is deeply felt, not just by those who lost their jobs, but by the communities that relied on them. The shockwaves are being felt everywhere. On main streets across America, the effects are clear. Boarded-up shops, hushed conversations in diners, and a growing sense of worry. Families gather in community centers, trying to understand what's happening and support each other through these tough times. The auto industry isn't immune either. Giants like Nissan and Subaru are facing major challenges. Factories that once buzzed with activity now sit silent, their parking lots empty. Workers who once took pride in their craft now stand outside, uncertain if their jobs will ever return. When these big companies falter, the impact ripples outward. Suppliers, dealerships, and entire towns that depend on these industries are left struggling. News outlets report on the mounting layoffs, and the sense of instability spreads quickly, touching every part of the economy. With both public and private sectors under strain, the outlook for the American economy is troubling. Economists debate the long-term effects on TV, but for many, the consequences are already real. Fewer jobs, less security, and a growing feeling that the ground is shifting beneath their feet. Meanwhile, just north of the border, Canada seems to be weathering the storm with calm and confidence. The difference is striking. While uncertainty grips the US, Canadian cities move at a steady, unhurried pace. Government buildings stand as quiet symbols of stability, and the mood on the streets is noticeably more relaxed. While American workers face layoffs and anxiety, their Canadian counterparts enjoy a period of relative stability. Offices are alive with activity, and employees go about their routines with a sense of security that now feels distant for many in the US. This contrast raises important questions about the choices each country is making and how those decisions affect everyday people. In one home, a family sits around the table, faces tense with worry. In another, laughter and conversation fill the air. The decisions of leaders ripple down to shape the daily lives of millions. This isn't just about politics. It's about real people caught in the middle of sweeping changes. Behind every number is a story, a parent, a neighbor, a friend, all trying to adjust to a world that suddenly feels unfamiliar. As the nation faces these challenges, the big question remains: how will we help those left behind, and what kind of future will we create together? The story began in the heart of Washington, D.C., where the wheels of government turn and decisions ripple across the nation. It all started with a seemingly simple, yet unprecedented offer from the Trump administration, one that would soon send shockwaves through the federal workforce. Federal employees across various agencies were suddenly presented with a stark choice: voluntarily resign from their positions and, in return, receive their full pay and benefits until the end of September. For many, this was an unexpected crossroads. The administration's goal was clear: to reduce the size of the federal workforce and cut government spending, but to do so without resorting to mass firings or abrupt layoffs that could spark even greater unrest. A firm deadline loomed over the offer, creating a sense of urgency and anxiety. Employees had only a short window to make what could be a life-altering decision, weighing their options as the clock ticked down. For many, the choice was agonizing, a delicate balance between the promise of immediate financial relief and the uncertainty of giving up long-term job security, benefits, and a sense of purpose. Supporters of the plan argued that a leaner government would be more efficient, agile, and cost-effective, allowing taxpayer dollars to be used more wisely and reducing bureaucratic red tape. The buyout was carefully framed as a humane and voluntary alternative to forced layoffs, offering employees a dignified exit rather than abrupt termination. However, critics quickly voiced their concerns, warning that the program would drain federal agencies of experienced workers, erode institutional knowledge, and ultimately cripple the ability of public services to function effectively. Protests erupted in cities across the country, with citizens and workers alike fearing that the cuts were too deep, too fast, and would leave vital government functions understaffed and overwhelmed. For many federal employees, the offer, though technically voluntary, felt like a forced hand, a decision made under pressure and uncertainty, with livelihoods and futures hanging in the balance. The program immediately became a lightning rod for controversy, dominating headlines and sparking heated debates about the role and size of government in American life. Many worried about the long-term consequences for public services, questioning how agencies would continue to serve the public with fewer staff and diminished expertise. Policy experts weighed in, debating whether the move would truly lead to greater efficiency or simply create new problems down the line. The voluntary resignation program was designed to be swift and decisive, but as employees packed their belongings and left their offices behind, it became clear that its impact would be far-reaching and anything but simple. The response to the resignation offer was overwhelming. The response to the resignation offer was overwhelming. The response to the resignation offer was overwhelming. Between 20 and 40,000 federal workers signed up to leave. The administration saw this as a success, rapidly downsizing the workforce. The program reached every corner of government, even the CIA. With a hiring freeze in place, agencies shrank fast. The loss of experienced employees created a vacuum of knowledge and expertise. Departments scrambled to redistribute workloads and maintain services. Remaining employees faced ballooning workloads and plummeting morale. The intended leaner government became a more strained and anxious one. The consequences of mass departures rippled through every agency. Just as the administration declared victory, the courts intervened. Federal judges ruled that firing thousands of probationary workers was illegal. The administration's performance-based justifications didn't hold up in court. Judges ordered immediate reinstatement, halting a key part of the plan. The White House criticized the rulings, calling them judicial overreach. Agencies hesitated to comply, creating a standoff between branches of government. The legal battle threw the process into chaos. Fired employees won a victory, but it was uncertain and incomplete. The administration's resistance meant the fight was far from over. The path to reinstatement was blocked by political and legal obstacles. For tens of thousands of workers, life became a confusing waiting game. They were caught in limbo, unsure if they were fired or rehired. The White House's defiance added to the confusion. Agencies stayed silent, leaving employees desperate for answers. Some workers received back pay, a glimmer of hope, but not a solution. The logistical challenge of rehiring thousands was immense. Many doubted the government's willingness to fix the problem. The uncertainty took a heavy emotional and financial toll. Workers couldn't move forward or look for new jobs. The feeling of being stuck created immense stress for families. The process felt broken, with workers paying the price for dysfunction. The federal job cuts hit states like Colorado hard. Nearly 500 federal employees filed for unemployment, triple the previous year's number. The new Department of Government Efficiency, led by Elon Musk, oversaw the chaotic process. Layoffs were haphazard. Some workers were fired, then rehired weeks later. The cuts hit key departments, especially in counties with large federal workforces. State officials scrambled to help displaced workers, but the scale was daunting. Layoffs were ongoing, with deeper cuts planned. Economists warned of long-term consequences for local economies. Each lost job meant less money spent in communities. The layoffs created a lasting drag on Colorado's economy. For many, the efficiency drive felt like a destabilizing blow. The turmoil within the federal workforce unfolded against a backdrop of growing economic anxiety that touched nearly every corner of society. As uncertainty spread through government offices, the ripple effects were felt far beyond the walls of federal buildings. Car manufacturers like Nissan and Subaru faced mounting challenges, from supply chain disruptions to declining consumer demand, fueling widespread fears about the stability of the job market. workers worried about layoffs, and entire communities dependent on these factories braced for tough times ahead. News of trouble at major companies quickly rippled through the economy, dominating headlines and sparking concern among investors, business owners, and everyday employees alike. The uncertainty made people question the future of their own jobs and financial security. Job insecurity led people to tighten their budgets and spend less, which in turn hurt local businesses and forced some to close their doors. The cycle of worry and reduced spending made it even harder for the economy to recover. This negative feedback loop deepened economic weakness, as falling sales led to more layoffs and even greater uncertainty. Each new round of bad news seemed to reinforce the sense of instability. Federal layoffs, combined with private sector struggles, created a perfect storm of worry and unrest. The sense that no job was truly safe began to take hold. The loss of public sector stability, once considered a bedrock of the economy, shook confidence in all types of employment. Even those who felt secure began to question their future. People responded by saving more and spending less, putting off big purchases and cutting back on everyday expenses. This cautious approach slowed the economy even further, making recovery more difficult. The sense of security that once underpinned the workforce gradually eroded, replaced by a growing sense of vulnerability and doubt about the future. Friends and neighbors lost jobs. Anxiety spread from household to household, creating a shared sense of unease that affected entire communities. The cumulative effect was a growing fear that stable work was slipping away, replaced by a constant search for new opportunities and a struggle to make ends meet. This widespread anxiety, touching families, businesses, and entire towns, stands as one of the most significant and lasting consequences of the turmoil, shaping the way people think about work and security for years to come. While the US faces layoffs and economic jitters, Canada's story is different. There have been no large-scale federal workforce cuts north of the border. The Canadian government has maintained stability, avoiding dramatic downsizing. This contrast highlights two very different approaches to public sector management. Canadian workers enjoy job security, which calms the broader economy. Confidence remains high. People spend and invest. The government's choice to avoid mass layoffs sends a message of stability. Canada's economy appears more placid, with fewer industry crises. The lesson is clear. Government decisions have profound impacts on ordinary lives. As the US faces confusion and anxiety, Canada's calm is a reminder that other paths are possible.